the only performance that makes it, that really makes it, that makes it all the way, is the one that achieves madness, right? Am I right?
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Exploitation Nation. I hope you enjoyed that first episode. I think a lot of people did. I enjoyed doing it. So I'm here to do it again. I think we're going to have a good time. I'm going to jump right into our DVDs here today. Or DVD, I should say. We got an offering from TROMA. We always enjoy stuff from TROMA. Though this is not one made by TROMA. This is an independent film made by a cat in Arizona named Matthew Reel. It's a movie called Jessica Rabbid. Though you wouldn't know it was made by Matthew Reel if you looked at the package. Interestingly enough, his name is nowhere to be found on the DVD packaging, I should say. Matthew Reel is a kind of an underground filmmaker. I'm a fan of his work. He's made a couple of short films, one called The Goat Sucker, and another one called All the French Are Whores, and another one called Bathwater, all of which I'm a fan of his short films. And when I heard he was making his first feature film, I was pretty excited. He's on two of those three shorts I mentioned. He worked with a young actress named Elska McCain, who sort of made a name for herself as an up-and-coming scream queen. And this was her first starring role working with Matthew Reel. She's gone on to do some other lower-end stuff. Nothing really of note that I can think of off the top of my head. But it's kind of an exciting prospect that they're working on this movie. Through things that I don't really know much about, I guess there was some, I don't know, some problems along the way. And they sort of split before this movie came out. And Matt put out a limited edition of it on his own, and she went on to put this out through TROMA. I don't know if there's differences in the cut, but this is the edition I saw. And needless to say, like I said, I was excited to see it. I was really looking forward to it. I liked Matt's other movies, and I was really looking forward to this. The plot of Jessica Rabbid has Elska McCain playing the title role of Jessica. She's this young woman who's been raised by her family. The head of the household, her older brother, played by genre workhorse Trent Haga. They've sort of raised her like an animal, like the family dog. She's kept in cages in the garage, and it's never really explained if she's mentally handicapped or if they've just abused her all her life and she just has just been led to believe that she's this way. But the movie picks up with Trent and the other family. I think it's her brother, maybe it's the cousin, I'm not remembering this quite right. Anyway, they're taking care of her, and you know, she's just literally treated like the family dog. She doesn't speak, she doesn't, you know, do anything but act like a dog. They have her with dog toys and whatnot. She's kept in like rags and literally kept in a cage. So the movie picks up with the older sisters coming back home, and it's sort of this weird family dynamic of what's going on. It's not really a horror film per se for most of the movie. It's really this sort of sick, twisted drama of what goes on. Kind of reminded me of the old 70s movie The Baby, whereas The Baby was about, you know, this guy that had been raised to believe he was a baby even though he was an adult. So it's a lot like that. It's a very twisted movie in that way. And what really makes it work, though, what makes the Jessica Rabbit good, is the directing of Matt Reel. Matt Reel's a very visual stylist. He pulls his influences from 60s underground films like Kenneth Anger and things like that. He's very Baroque style. And he chose for this the 70s porno storefront films, whereas you see a lot of people trying to ape grindhouse movies now. And I think at first look, people are going to mistake that with this. They're going to say, oh, it's a grindhouse movie. But he's really going for something different here. He's trying to make it look like a 70s storefront porno. There's a very specific look to those films. And this movie achieves that. Even though it's shot on video, he really has gone that extra mile to make it look grimy and dirty and look like it's been kept in someone's shoebox. And it's, you know, it looks like it was shot on Super 8. It wasn't, but it looks like it. And it's edited that way. He used a lot of old educational films from the Prelinger archives and wove those in very clever ways to make it look like that there's home movies involved and educational movies wove in, and he uses the audio from educational films, and it's very clever. The unfortunate side of this, and I don't know if this comes from, you know, the lead star, aka producer, and Matt Reel having a fallout, is that the lead performance by Elska McCain just isn't there, and it should carry the film, and it's very flat. She's a good-looking woman, and I give her a lot of props for not using that to carry the movie, because she's doing a role where she has to be dirty, and you know, she isn't trying to use her looks to carry the film, and I give her a lot of credit for it. But, you know, it just her performance is flat, where it should be. There should be, as the movie progresses, it needs to be more emotional, and it doesn't quite work. There's too many times where she just sort of doesn't seem like she's in the moment. And also there seems to be a lot of where this movie needs to be sleazy, and it looks like it's going there, and then it just cuts. It seems like there's several scenes where there's like these grimy sex scenes that the movie's leading up to, and then it just cuts cold. And yet on the DVD, in the bloopers and cut scenes, there's extra footage of those scenes where they clearly shot that stuff. And, you know, and there's a nude photo gallery of Elska on the DVD. So it's not like she's afraid to do that stuff, and it's not like it didn't exist. The movie would have been better with it. The movie goes that extra mile to try to be that kind of film, yet it doesn't deliver it in this cut, and I don't understand why. You know, the lead performance by Trent Haga, fantastic. He's always good. And there's a couple other guys whose names escape me, and they're not on the box, who play like the kind of grimy, nasty older brother. He's really good. You know, so the movie's just hit and miss, and I feel bad about saying that, because there's things I really liked about it. There's some things I didn't like about it. So overall, it's kind of like one of these movies. I wanted to like it a lot. Some things I did really like about it. There's some other things that just miss the mark, and it makes me feel bad to say it. So I'm going to say check it out if you get the chance. The style is worth it. The overall look is worth it. There's some ideas being floated around that are worth it. But at the end of the day, it just misses the mark, and it's unfortunate for that reason. But, you know, I'm really looking forward to Matthew Reel's new movie called Sweat the Movie. It's this sort of Baroque, you know, rock thing. I'm not real sure exactly what it's about. It looks like it's about sort of a hair metal band rock opera thing going on, and he's gathered a lot of underground luminaries into this thing. You know, he's got Damon Zex, he's got Damon Packard, he's got a bunch of people involved. So there's some excitement building on that thing, and I'm very excited to see it. So I'm real excited to see Matthew Reel's new movie. But, you know, Jessica Rabbit, check it out if you get a chance. I just wish that it worked as a whole and not in pieces. That's unfortunate. So, all right, check it out on the next piece. I'll be back in a second. Okay, I'm back with my Netflix finds, and I got a real cynical piece of work for you here, guys. After the success of The Wild Bunch, it seems like Hollywood and independent producers alike were on a race to try to find the most savage and most disturbing westerns they possibly could. So that's where, you know, they were trying to cash in on the darkness that Peckinpah tapped with The Wild Bunch. There were lots of movies that did it. You had, you know, movies like Soldier Blue, The Hunting Party, things like that. So, you know, and then you had low budget movies that did it. Which brings us to this little movie I stumbled on Netflix called 5 Savage Men. This one, super low budget. Wouldn't call it a good movie by any stretch, but certainly entertaining. It stars Henry Silva as an Apache warrior, and he stumbles across the young lady played by the Michelle Carey there, who is a school teacher who is attacked and raped by a group of savages, who I must stress are white savages, a bunch of thieves and miscreants, and you know, he witnesses this, but for reasons not very clear in the movie, doesn't stop the actual attack.
Stripper! Stick her out, Indian style. I'll show you, you goddamn fuck.
But he does come across her after the attack and cares for her, and kind of takes her in and as his own, and kind of helps her out, helps her heal, and decides to help her hunt down the guys who attacked her and do them in. So it's a Western rape revenge movie, actually. So he trains her in his Apache ways, trains her to shoot a gun, to, you know, throw tomahawks and set traps and all these kind of things, and then goes about hunting down the rest of the guys and killing them. And you're going to see, you know, faces from other 70s films that you recognize, like, you know, Joe Turkel and Keenan Wynn. And, you know, it's pretty entertaining is what it is. It's pretty unsavory business, pretty savage. The rape scene itself's handled pretty well, surprisingly. Even though there's still some nudity and stuff, they actually handle that scene a little more... a little better than you would expect, and you know, the action scenes are handled okay. It's the low budget shows, but they still handle it well. It has one of those 70s endings that are so cynical and ugly that it had to come from the Vietnam era, and that actually kind of makes the movie more resonant than it has any right to be, because up until then it's just pretty clearly a exploitation film. It's a rape revenge movie. It's got a, you know, a guy who is clearly not an American Indian playing an American Indian.
I need you, Shadow.
So it all seems pretty phony. But then it has this ending that, I'm not going to say what happens, but it, you know, starts reminding you of things like the Vietnam War and Kent State and things like that, that really, it brings it all home into a package. So, it's worth checking out. A little tedious at times, and like I said, the low budget shows more often than not. But, not a bad little movie. Certainly worth checking out on Netflix. It's the perfect place for it. So there you go. Check this one out. I think you might like it. Alright guys, I'm back. Now is the time where I talk about the good old VHS format. So I know there's a lot of collectors out there, still collect it. So this is a fun time for you guys to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a tape here called Splatter, the Architects of Fear. This is a crazy tape here. I have no idea where I bought this. I can't remember for the life of me. It still has the writing on the tape from the store. This came out in 1986, and I remember getting this because at the time I was very into special effects. I was probably in middle school when this came out. And I thought I was going to be a special effects artist. Coincidentally, I still do special effects for my own films, not necessarily by choice, more by budgetary reasons. I'm okay at it. I can do it. You know, if I was hired to do special effects for someone else's film, I could probably pull it off, just so you know. But I digress. I remember picking this up probably at a place called H&H Video to rent. It was across the main street behind my house. I used to go over there and bug the shit out of those guys when I was in middle school. And I remember them getting this, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. It's a horror movie that shows you how to do the special effects. And I remember watching it and just thinking, boy, does this fucking suck. The effects part was cool. You know, it was cool to see them do all these special effects. But what a cheesy damn movie that they were making. It was like this post-apocalyptic biker sleaze tits and ass thing.
In the movies, nothing is what it seems, and most props are made of quite surprising material. The director sets up and rehearses the effect before actually putting it on film.
Cut. Hey, that was good. Beautiful. Nicely done. Okay, look, don't move for a sec. Don't move. 2205. Hang on. Greetings, everyone.
In spite of the apparent chaos of the typical movie set, each person is an expert and knows exactly what they must do.
And action. Cut. Good.
If this backwards acting looks funny, it's so that when the final film is printed in reverse, the machete attack will look real.
horror movie lens.
Now, what had that before? Don't scream much better.
Yeah. Just put one more on for that.
Too flat, not primal enough?
Now for the real fun. What good is a stomach wound if you can't dig in a little? With the help of some rubber tubing and a syringe dark with stage blood, we have a truly cutting shot.
I'm going to make an incision head along here. Here, then you better give me the machete. I'll just tear off the gun.
Just in the gaffer should mention it to you. I think just tape, if it'll tape down, that's fine. Pain. And action, Tim.
Hang on, she's grabbing the tube. You're pinching the tube?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to let it go.
To make Dawn happy.
Screen. Screen, action. That's all right.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hang on one second.
So as you can see from that clip, it's total insanity on this thing. I don't have a clue who made this. In North American Entertainment, never heard of them ever again. You know, the people that made it, you know, Robert Bergman, director of photography, director Peter Rowe. I don't know, Peter Rowe and Don McMillan sound vaguely familiar. So, but you know, it's just one of those things. But, you know, years later, looking at it now, it's a lot of fun. The no-budget production values are ridiculous. You know, it's a lot of fun. I kind of like it. It's, you know, the effects are ridiculously no budget, and it's a good time. So if you get a chance to find Splatter, The Architects of Fear, pick it up. I don't know, the tape's probably going for ridiculous prices though, so I'd say you may not want to pay that, but it's worth checking out. I enjoy it. Okay, all right, we're back with my segment here that I call My Bootleg Life, and I got something that I think you're going to enjoy, you're going to get a kick out of. I bought a lot of bootlegs over the years from Shocking Videos. I don't know if you can see that. Shocking Videos. Mark Johnson over there in the hills of West Virginia. Mark Johnson was definitely one of the most reliable people if you wanted to get gray market videos. And this is one of my favorite ones that I got over the years. Definitely a perennial in the bootleg market. This is not something you can get legitimately anywhere else, and it's an important piece of gray market video. You know, this is an important piece of video, period, of just TV history, and it's something called Geraldo versus Satan.
You have to give a blood sacrifice to Satan. It's supposed to keep you protected. It's supposed to keep you pure.
Devil worship. Exposing Satan's underground.
Geraldo versus Satan. And it's a piece of history, in fact. In the early 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this whole panic of satanic panic where, you know, underneath every rock in every preschool, there was a belief that there was a Satanist waiting to attack your kids, to snatch your children up and molest them and turn them over to the dark side of Satan.
And there's always heavy metal music, and drugs don't help.
It attracts the angry and the powerless, who often think it's a secret lie.
They asked me if I had ever thought about killing somebody just to watch them die, and they asked me if I would like to join a satanic cult.
Possessed by an obsessive fascination with sex and drugs, and yes, heavy metal rock and roll.
Satan's child.
Often.
And there's a whole, I could do a whole show about that. But one of the big reasons, reasons people believed that was this show where Geraldo had a panel of Satanists, or people who believed in Satan, or people that helped propagate the belief in Satan, and then a bunch of people who hunted Satanists, who were, you know, police officers and writers and books, people that were involved in the books and whatnot. And it was this big 2-hour show, and it was actually called Exposing Satan's Underground. On the tape trading circuit, they ended up calling it Geraldo versus Satan.
Devil worship. Exposing Satan's Underground.
You know, it's kind of a hilarious piece of pop culture. You know, it's like, you know, Ozzy Osbourne appears on there, and King Diamond, and these rock stars. And
let's go to London for a quick exchange with Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy, I'm glad you're on the program. I'll interview you in greater detail in a couple of minutes. The one thing I have to ask you now, though, is, of course, the vast majority of your fans and the fans of heavy metal music are not Satanists. But there is no doubt, at least not in our reporting, that that heavy metal music plays a role. Every single kid that whose case we know about, who committed a violent act in Satan's name, was also into heavy metal music. What's your response to that, Oz?
Well, I don't really know. All I do is make music. You know, I don't sit down and purposely plan to freak everybody out. I mean,
you know, you have you know, people that you look back at it and we know how goofy they are, and that there's no way to take them seriously, and that there's been an FBI investigation into the whole thing that has disproved all of it. That, you know, there were no satanic cabals kidnapping children. That it's just all bullshit. It's been proven to be bullshit. But at the time, it swept the nation, and people believed it. Police officers believed it. Some still do. And this thing panicked the nation. Years later, Geraldo himself actually came back and said okay and apologized. But the damage this show did, you know, the families it destroyed, the people that ended up in prison that were falsely accused, is just phenomenal. But the show itself has got such weird kitsch value when you look at it, and like there's a moment in there where they're showing Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker killer, at his trial. This is a perfect example of the media manipulation that this show does. And he's being walked out of his trial, and he holds up his hand, and it's a very famous moment, and he yells, you know, "Hail Satan." And it's a famous moment. It scared the nation. They're like, oh my God, there's this murderer, and he was a Satan worshiper, and, you know, this is how ingrained in the culture Satan worshiping has become. And it, you know, it was, for middle America, it was a scary moment. But Geraldo takes it a step further. And we don't see the people in the courtroom in this clip. We don't see anyone. But Geraldo's team dubbed in the audio from the end of Rosemary's Baby. So when he holds up his hand, he has the pentagram, you know, scrawled on it, and he says "Hail Satan" to the courtroom. The way it plays on Geraldo's show, the courtroom yells back "Hail Satan" to him. But to people who know better, people who recognize the audio like myself, it's the end audio from the movie Rosemary's Baby being looped over the clip. So instead, it looks like the courtroom cheered back to him. But they didn't in real life. If you've seen the actual courtroom footage, that doesn't happen at all. The judge, you know, hits the gavel and he walks out. The thing is filled with that kind of crap. You know, but this went on. I have stacks of this. I became kind of obsessed with this after a while, and I have stacks of talk shows from Oprah, from Sally Jesse Raphael, who actually was one of the most least sensational of all of them. Just stacks of these things, and that time period is fascinating with the hysteria and the people coming on these shows and just lying their asses off with stories that make no sense. But this is the king of them. It is the crown jewel, if you will. And Geraldo doesn't play clips from this anymore. He tries to live it down after he apologized. So, worth its weight in gold if you can see it. Geraldo versus Satan.
Devil worship. Exposing Satan's underground.
Your mind will be blown that people were this stupid at that point in time. Well worth checking out. And the only way you're going to see it is on bootleg tape. Alright guys, that's the end of episode 2. I hope you've enjoyed it. Come back to this YouTube channel or here on DATV and check out episode 3, which will be coming up. And, you know, if you got stuff you want to say, you know, drop me a line. You'll see the way to reach me here on the screen. And, you know, I want to hear your comments and thoughts. It's been crazy. There's been some crazy times going on recently, some controversy. So, you know, I want to hear what you think. I like doing the show. I like talking to you guys. So, you know, check it out and keep reading the Exploitation Nation blog. There's lots of reviews there. You know, check them out and join the Exploitation Nation page on Facebook. That's there too. So, all right, guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks.